What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another car review. This is of course the 2022 Kia Carnival. So about the Carnival, well, Kia calls this an MPV or multi-purpose vehicle, but we'll just cut straight to the point. It's a minivan, it's the replacement for the Sedona, and I think it looks fantastic. Now they did try to give it more of an SUV vibe here in a few areas to make it look a little more rugged than the average minivan. But I think just, it's a really cool looking van. I don't think there's anything wrong with it being a minivan, and I think it looks really awesome. I'd say hands down, out of the 4 new minivans that have come out here in the past year, this is hands down the coolest looking one in my opinion. So it's on an all new platform that's underpinned with the Sorento and the K5 actually, believe it or not. And so, I mean, it looks really sharp up front there. I gotta say, I think if Land Rover was crazy enough to make a Range Rover minivan, this is almost exactly what it would look like. Right up front there, you have those very bold headlights, which have the cool little zigzag kind of daytime running light there in them. And these are also the lower version of the headlights. In the SX Prestige trim, you actually get a little bit more of a cooler looking headlight there, but that's only in that very top trim. This is just a regular SX, but still looks very sharp. You also have the new Kia logo there on the hood. And I just love how you have some concavity there to the grille, and the front bumper all looks very nice there. You got a little bit of cladding to, again, start giving it a little bit more of an SUV vibe. Also coming down to the sides here, the SX version gets these slightly larger 19-inch wheels that are black. You'll get 18-inch wheels on lower trims. But I also like how you have a blacked out A-pillar here, which gives it a sportier vibe. And you'll also see even roof rails, which is something you don't always get on other minivans. So nice to have those. But really the standout feature here on the sides is that C-pillar treatment, which has this knurled metal kind of look to it. And I think it's really sweet. And again, makes it feel very expensive and upmarket. Again, much like a Range Rover or something. And then out back, it also looks very futuristic and modern there with that long LED strip of taillights there, which is a cool little touch. And you also see a little bit of a satin chrome kind of finish there in the lower part of the rear bumper, kind of suggesting a skid plate. It's not an actual skid plate or anything, just gives you a little bit more of that rugged vibe, which you also see a little bit on the sides here with that body cladding you get in the very bottom parts of the doors. But I think, from every angle, this thing looks really sharp. I think they just knocked it out of the park with the styling here on the Carnival. All right, so let's start up and go for a drive. The Carnival here has the newer Kia key. I love how you have kind of this trigger switch here on the top for the lock button and the unlock and stuff, all very cool. Also the new Kia logo. And since this is the van, you also have remote opening and closing of those back doors. So great to have all of that, as well as remote start. But of course it is keyless access, keyless entry, and push button start here in the SX version. So you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it starts right up. Also, if you're curious to hear about the interior in the Carnival, my wife and I actually just did a full in-depth interior review on this vehicle, so I'll link that above. You can go watch that if you want to hear all our thoughts on this interior. But overall, it's very impressive with all of its tech and all the space. All right, so setting off here in the 2022 Kia Carnival. So the first thing you notice, well, you have a nice high seating position here. So, you have a very good view over the dashboard and stuff. Visibility is excellent. I mean, you have a nice, pretty thin A-pillar here, nice little window here, and the mirrors are off onto the doors. So really good forward visibility. I mean, that's typical of minivans, but this one doesn't let you down. It has really good visibility forward. View out of the back is also good, provided you don't have those rear headrests up, because if you do, then those will block that visibility a good bit. Other things here, I just really appreciate how normal this feels. It feels very predictable and easy. The Toyota Sienna really switched it up with their hybrid thing and the CVT thing and going for a 4-cylinder. Thankfully, this still has a V6, normal automatic transmission. It's just very predictable. Every time I hit the gas, it does what I expect it to do. Everything just feels very appropriate. The steering weight is actually pretty good. It's not overly light, but it's also not trying to be heavy and sporty or anything either. It just feels, really good. Brakes also feel nice and confidence inspiring. They have a little bit of a dead travel, and then they start biting, once you start getting into the pedal there a little bit, and works exactly how you would expect it to. It allows you to be pretty smooth very easily as well, so you don't have to be super light with your brake pedal inputs or anything like that. So I mean, it's a very easy vehicle to drive in all those ways. Throttle response is very good. It's also pretty quiet in here as well. So, I was even doing a decent amount of highway driving, and even on the highway it was, relatively quiet for, this segment of, minivans and stuff. Smooth ride as well, especially even though this one does have the slightly larger wheels. They're only 19s and they still have nice tall sidewalls. So very good, you know, as far as the ride goes. It has an independent rear suspension and all that, so it does a really good job with all those things. And so whenever you're just cruising around at low speeds, it's going to be a very nice and very refined vehicle. But there's 4 different drive modes here. There's normal, eco, sport, and smart here in the Carnival. So I put it up into the sport mode here, and let's turn down onto this back road and see how it does. Here we go. Pretty immediate response. That V6 just roars. Get a little bit of torque steer there over a little bump, but it pulls, you know, pretty nice and strongly. So it's a pretty normal V6 for this segment. It's a 3.5 liter V6. It does 290 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. And Kia likes to claim that's best-in-class power, but it's just barely. 290 horsepower is 3 more than what you get in a Pacifica and 10 more than what you get in an Odyssey. I think it's hilarious, though, that the torque is identical. They all do 262 pound-feet of torque, aside from the Sienna. The 3 others all do the same exact torque to the number. I mean, it's kind of funny. So, you know, as far as 0 to 60 goes, this is about a 7-second 0 to 60 is what Car and Driver got. They did record a 6.5 second 0 to 60 in the Odyssey, so if you're looking for the punchiest thing out there, that might be the way to go. You can also, you know, have a little bit better traction if you go for the Pacifica, which has all-wheel drive paired with that V6. You also get all-wheel drive with the Sienna. That's a lot less power, though, and that's going to be the slowest of the bunch. It is worth noting, this is front-wheel drive only here for the Carnival, and there is no hybrid option like you have, you know, with all the Siennas being hybrid or the Pacifica having the plug-in hybrid option. Nothing quite that advanced here. It's just front-wheel drive and a good honest V6, and so for a lot of people that's going to be totally fine. And so yeah, I mean, sport mode, you know, it doesn't really seem to change much, to be perfectly honest. I think throttle response might be a little bit sharper, might be a little bit quicker to downshift, but I mean, it doesn't do much. This is a minivan, so if you're trying to drive like a sports car, you know, you're probably in the wrong vehicle. But, you know, it's just very good. And this road's a little bit rougher here, generates some more road noise, but still not bad, still very good. And again, this is being dead silent. If you have the radio on or something, you'll hear even less. But we're coming up with some corners here, and let's see how the Carnival handles them. Alright, so a little bit of protest from the tires there, but they're not squealing like crazy or anything. You know, for a minivan, this doesn't handle bad. Trying to compare it to the others, I'd say maybe it feels a tiny bit better than a Pacifica. I think that the Odyssey still feels a little bit better, and I think also the Sienna on the sportier wheels of the XSE trim also might feel a little bit sportier in corners. You know, but I mean, again, we're talking about minivans. I'm not going to dissect it like a sports car. They do weigh, for anyone who's curious, about 4,644 pounds. So, you know, definitely heavy, and that's, again, par for the course, though. So, no big deal there. As far as towing, too, it can actually tow 3,500 pounds. So, decent amount of towing there. Again, mostly thanks to this V6. Yeah, for anyone who's curious, you know, yes, these handle totally fine. And, you know, if you're finding yourself around some corners, you know, it's going to handle itself just fine. I mean, again, any modern minivan is going to be miles better than anything from even 5 years ago, and, you know, stuff even further back. I mean, this is going to ride like a dream. The only thing as far as handling you might have to worry about a little bit is in the rain or the snow. You know, this thing will love to spin the tires. Anything with front-wheel drive and a massive V6 like these minivans all have, you know, I mean, it's going to want to spin those tires. So you're going to have to just be a little more careful with your throttle inputs whenever you're, you know, driving around. But if you're used to a front-wheel drive minivan or anything that's front-wheel drive that has a decent amount of power, you know, this isn't going to be any kind of new experience for you. But, you know, just keep that in mind. And, yeah, again, it goes back to, if you want the sure-footed confidence of all-wheel drive, you got to go for either the Pacifica or the Sienna. If you want the V6 with all-wheel drive, Pacifica is the only game in town still. So just keep that in mind. And, you know, I think for a family-friendly vehicle, having the all-wheel drive certainly is nice, but especially if you live in a place where you don't get a lot of bad weather, obviously the front-wheel drive minivans are going to make a lot of sense because you get better fuel economy. Although, again, you can kind of have the best of both worlds with the Sienna, with the all-wheel drive hybrid setup that has. That gives you fantastic fuel economy while still giving you the all-wheel drive capability. But, you know, that is going to give up about 50 horsepower in that exchange, and so it just comes down to, you know, whether or not you're okay with having that power loss. Speaking of safety and security, though, one thing to mention here is all the great standard safety equipment you do get in the Carnival. They really do load it up. I'm really impressed here. I mean, as the model years go on, it seems like you get more and more standard safety equipment, but this one really has a lot. So, I mean, it has the automatic emergency braking, which a lot of people are used to in the past few years, but also it does have standard blind spot monitoring. It has the rear cross traffic alert, which is great that it has that as standard. And also as standard, the blind spot warning system can actually do a little bit of braking on one of the inside wheels to actually bring you back into your lane if it detects that you are leaving the lane and it sees a car in your blind spot that you're not watching out for or something. So it actually will help you kind of avoid things a little bit. It also does have standard lane keep assist and lane follow assist, so it will be able to help you out with that. It also gives you a standard lane departure warning, so it'll warn you and assist you as far as, you know, helping you to drive this thing decently. So it has all your bases covered basically as standard, which is really impressive. Now you do get the highway drive assist, adaptive cruise control system here on this SX and higher trims. And then if you go for the SX Prestige, you can also get the blind view monitoring system, which will actually, along with the digital gauges, give you a display of what is actually in your blind spot whenever you turn your turn signal on, which is nice that it gives you that if you really want to have, you know, even more safety equipment there. Those SX Prestige models also will give you automatic braking in the back. If you're, you know, looking like you're going to reverse into something, it'll automatically stop the vehicle there at low speeds, and, you know, it does all those types of things with radar sensors. And you even get standard auto high beams too. Also on this regular SX trim, you even have the surround view monitor, which is great, so it'll help you to parallel park easier, and just, you know, if you're in tight spaces, having that 360 view is really nice. And now we're out on the highway here in the Carnival, and still a very nice cruiser, but I do have that highway drive assist system on here, and it's working okay. Now, unfortunately, it seems to be pretty much the same in any Kia, Hyundai, or Genesis vehicle that I've been testing here, where it doesn't do reliable steering assist. And I actually did about 50 miles of highway driving before this right now, and in those 50 miles, it just struggles to lock onto the lanes really well. And I mean, it's not like the lanes are painted weird everywhere. I mean, currently right here, it's painted a little bit weirdly, and it's actually tracking them fine. But there was other times where I was on a totally normal painted highway, and it still was just losing track. And whenever it loses track of the road lines, it also doesn't alert you that it lost track. Just the little green steering wheel light just goes away, or it'll just go to gray. So there's no audible alert or anything like that to actually notify you. I'd love to see like a steering wheel vibration to let you know that it's not doing the lane help anymore, because, you know, that's something that if you actually want to relax with this system, you're going to have to constantly be keeping your eye on that little steering wheel icon to make sure that it's actually tracking those road lines, because the second it stops tracking the road lines, it's not helping you with steering. And that's why it's a fully hands-on system, and you still have to be paying attention. But I just wish the system was more reliable. And a lot of the other systems I've tested from competing companies, now the Toyota system isn't nearly as advanced, but as far as the Honda system and the Odyssey, that system is actually really good with the way it does lane keeping assist. It's much more reliable in my experience with actually tracking the lines and allowing you to relax a little bit. And so I haven't been able to test the Pacifica very much to see how that one does. So, I mean, this might be a little bit more advanced than what you get with some of the others, but just keep in mind that, you know, it might not be as relaxing as it sounds in the marketing materials if it doesn't work consistently. Maybe there'll be updates or something down the road to make it more consistent, and a lot of other reviewers don't have the issues with the system that I do. I don't know why I have bad luck with these, but it's just, in my experience, at least on my highways, it just struggles sometimes to do that. Now, as of right now, it's working very well. So in this instance, it's steering itself pretty well. It isn't ping-ponging. Sometimes, though, even whenever it does track the lines, it will be ping-ponging a little bit, and it's a little more nervous with its steering than I would like out of a system. And the best systems that I've tested don't do any kind of ping-ponging and aren't as nervous and actually allow me to relax a little bit more. But it's also worth noting you don't have to have the steering assist on. So if you want to just do adaptive cruise control without the steering assist, you can do that. And the adaptive cruise part works great. It's very intelligent. It's slowing down, you know, with cars in front of you, and does a really good job with all that. It does it at low speeds and stuff, so when you're in traffic jams, that's very nice, and that is fantastic. So the system is worth it for that alone. Again, the steering assist thing, I think you're better off just leaving off. But yeah, so I've been driving this vehicle for 96 miles now over the course of a week here, and it's a really nice thing to live with. It always, you know, does what I'm expecting it to do, and overall, there's really not much to complain about here. Like I said, aside from the highway drive assist thing, everything as far as the actual drive experience is really good in the Carnival. And so really the last two things to mention here are the fuel economy and the pricing here of the Carnival. So first off, fuel economy. So in my 96 miles of driving here, my average has been 20.1 mpg. So these are rated at 19 mpg in the city, 26 on the highway, and 22 combined. Now that does include a little bit of idling while I was filming this interior with the air conditioning on. So that did drag it down a little bit, but it still is a little underwhelming because I actually did, again, about 50 miles of highway driving in this vehicle out of that 96. So I was doing pretty close to that combined, figure of, half city, half highway. The city driving wasn't even really stop and go. It was just like back roads, cruising at low speeds and stuff. But even still, so I was hoping to maybe get like the 22 combined number. I'm still only getting 20. It is what it is. None of these minivans are really fuel efficient, again, aside from that Sienna, or if you go for the plug-in hybrid version of the Pacifica, which gives you actual electric range plus the hybrid component there in those. So if you're interested in fuel economy that's really good, I definitely think definitely check out one of those. But otherwise, this is going to be par for the course. This is about what I got in some of the others. I think, honestly, since I did more highway driving in this is better fuel economy than what I got in my reviews of the Odyssey and the Pacifica. But nevertheless, so just keep that in mind. 20 mpg is what I'm getting. Your mileage may vary. The last thing to mention is the pricing here, though. So these start around $32,000, and then this one, as tested, is just under $43,000 for an SX. The $32,000 price tag is pretty enticing, and that does make it one of the lowest out there. The only one that really matches it is, well, first off, you can actually get a Chrysler Voyager cheaper, but aside from that, you can also get a Honda Odyssey in its base trim for around the same $32,000. So I wouldn't say that it's undercutting any of them, really. I will say you get a lot of nice features for the money, and especially compared to the Odyssey, even a fully loaded Odyssey has way less tech than this does, even in its mid-grade trim. The screen is just better. You have wireless connectivity, and even the base Kia Carnival screen here, and so that's something you don't get with the Odyssey. And then again, this massive 12-inch screen you have here in this is fantastic, and so that's going to be something that's a lot more enticing as well. And I will say that that $32,000 price tag, even though you do get a lot of good safety equipment, a lot of pretty good standard stuff, I still would probably spring up for the next trim up, which is about $34,000, and that gives you at least a leather-wrapped steering wheel, so you're not feeling a plasticky wheel, and it gives you, a few other things you really want, like synthetic leather seats, so they're a little bit easier to clean up if you have kids. You also get heated seats there, and just that next level up. So some really nice features that I think you probably will appreciate for just $2,000 more. Seems like a reasonable upcharge if you're trying to go for a cheaper, version of the Carnival. And I think this SX trim is also very nice. I think, yeah, you don't have the digital gauges, but aside from the blind view monitor, the digital gauges don't do anything more than what these analog gauges do, so you're not really missing out on much there either. And so I think if you're okay living with that, there's a lot of savings you can have here with the regular SX over the Prestige version. But even the Prestige version, I'd say, is a pretty good value, because those are around $46,000. And if you do go for a loaded up version of basically any of the competitors, they're going to be more expensive. Loaded up version of the Odyssey is going to run you about $48,000, $49,000. Same thing goes for, you can actually get a Toyota Sienna into the 50s. You can also get the pinnacle version of the Chrysler Pacifica, which is very plush, I will admit, but those are going to be like, I think, 54 grand fully loaded. So if you're looking for basically all the stuff you can get and you want a fully loaded model, that is where this does come in and undercut everyone else. So, just keep that in mind. If you are shopping on the upper end of that, price segment and trim segment, that is, where you're going to find the biggest savings, I think, here with the Carnival, because it does match even those fully loaded models in most cases. In some cases, it even surpasses them, like the bigger screens, the rear infotainment screens being a little higher tech than what you get in some of the other fully loaded models and stuff. And so I think, Kia does what they always do really, really well, and that is that they, give you basically cutting edge tech these days. They give you every single feature for the most part that you get in the competitors, and yet they do it for a little bit of a lower price tag. And it's also worth noting, the final thing that's always the cherry on top when you're looking at a Kia or a Hyundai for that matter, is that you get the 10-year 100,000 mile warranty. That's if you buy it new or a certified used one. And so that 10-year warranty is going to give you a lot of peace of mind. Now, that's just for the powertrain warranty, so you're still on the hook after the first few years with the other, parts of the vehicle. And those have the standard bumper-to-bumper warranty like you get on any of the other models this competes with. But that powertrain warranty means, as far as the engine, transmission, and stuff are concerned, you have longer peace of mind than what you get with a lot of the other competitors. And so, I think that, since you have a pretty reliable and proven V6, you have the normal 8-speed automatic they've been using, and a lot of other stuff for a long time now, you know, I feel like the tech stuff, you know, is the only thing that's really cutting edge. Everything else, you know, should be pretty solid in these. I mean, yes, you're still going up against the legendary reliability of Honda and Toyota, but, you know, I think having that 10-year warranty certainly helps with that. So it's going to make for a very compelling proposition here. And it's also worth noting that sometimes you do get a little bit more of a discount with Kias than you do with some of the competing brands, especially the Toyotas and the Hondas, although these days that might be different since stuff like the Telluride is so hot that there still are some dealer markups in some places for those. So just is going to come down to, you know, how the deal will work out for you. But I mean, the Carnival seems to be really popular. I mean, I'm one of the later ones to review this vehicle, and I've seen several over the past few months. I mean, just in my area alone, there's, I think, 3 or 4 people I've seen that actually own them, that I see their Carnivals on a regular basis. So it seems like people are really enjoying these. They're, you know, picking up on them, and I think it's just a really cool combination of, you know, these really sharp, exciting looks, which is something that you really usually don't get with the other minivans. They look good, but, you know, they're not quite as slick looking as this, and all the interior, which really wows you, and everything else. It's just a fresh, exciting new competitor, and, you know, I love that they even swapped the name and, you know, gave it the Carnival name now. I think that also is accurate for, you know, this vehicle's enormous change that it's made here for this new generation. And it's, you know, worthy of that new name and that fresh image. And yeah, so I think it's going to do really well for Kia. I think it already probably is. And yeah, there's a lot to like here for sure. But anyway, that's all of my thoughts here on the Kia Carnival. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thanks to Kia for providing me here with the Carnival to review for you guys today. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.